Can a dead man warn you from beyond the grave? My father-in-law tried. He left me a letter, hidden in the rotting cabin he willed to me, and only me. He asked me to believe him, not the man I slept next to every night. I thought I was escaping Seattle for peace. Instead, I'd just walked straight into a war I never knew I was fighting. My name is Ilara. I am 38 years old, and until recently, I thought my life was built on a solid foundation. I restore old buildings. I find the rot, the structural weaknesses, the hidden flaws, and I make them strong again. It turns out, I'd been ignoring the decay in my own house. I drove for 3 hours out of Seattle, climbing into the wet, evergreen gloom of the Cascades with my 7-year-old son, Leo, quiet in the back seat. The silence in the car was heavy, broken only by the rhythmic thump of the windshield wipers pushing away the constant drizzle. We were heading to the cabin, Arthur's cabin. It was the only thing my father-in-law had left directly to me, not to his son, my husband Marcus, but to me. It was a detail that had caused a slight, sharp tightening in Marcus's jaw when the will was read. Arthur was a quiet man, weathered and kind, with eyes that saw more than he ever spoke about. I had always valued his steady presence, valued it far more, if I'm honest, than the frantic, ambitious energy of my own husband. Marcus hadn't come. He was too busy, drowning in a critical merger at his finance firm. That's what he'd said. He kissed my forehead as I packed, his phone buzzing on the counter. You go. He'd encouraged me, his voice smooth. Take the time off. You and Leo both need it after the funeral. Say goodbye properly. So I went. The cabin was cold, colder than the late autumn air outside. It smelled of damp stone, dust, and mice. A thick layer of grime covered every surface, a testament to Arthur's long illness and the cabin's isolation. I stood in the main room, my breath fogging, and felt the weight of the last 6 months press down on me. The funeral, the sterile hospital rooms, the mounting deadlines at my own firm, Viridian restoration. I was emotionally spent, running on fumes, and this cold, empty house felt less like a sanctuary and more like a tomb. Grandpa's house is dusty, Leo murmured, clutching the tablet I'd let him bring. It is, honey, but we'll warm it up. I forced a smile, my cheeks stiff. We'll build a fire. It just needs us to be in it. He missed Arthur terribly. We both did. I tried to keep my spirits up for him, turning the cleaning into an adventure. We swept floors, beat clouds of dust out of rugs on the porch, and wiped down the small kitchen. But the chill clung to the place, a penetrating cold that had nothing to do with the temperature. It was the chill of absence. On the second day, while Leo was outside building a small, precarious dam in a mud puddle, I decided to tackle Arthur's desk. It was a heavy, dark wood piece shoved into a corner of the main room, covered in old fishing magazines and tax documents from 5 years ago. I sorted papers, my hands gritty with dust. I was about to give up when I tried the bottom right drawer. It was stuck, not locked, just jammed. I pulled, jiggled it, and then, with the frustration of 1,000 tiny stresses, I braced my foot against the desk and yanked. Wood scraped against wood with a groan, and the drawer suddenly flew open, crashing onto my shins. Inside, nestled in the back, was a small, rusted tin, a brand of fishing lure I recognized from Arthur's tackle box. My heart gave a strange, single thump. I picked it up. It felt heavy. I pried open the lid with my thumbnail. There were no fishing lures inside. Instead, there was a letter. A simple white envelope, folded twice, yellowed at the edges. My name was written on the front in Arthur's shaky, deliberate hand. For Ilara only. My breath caught. Beneath the letter lay 2 other items. A small, bronze-colored key, the kind used for a safe deposit box, and tucked beside it, a slip of paper, brittle with age. At the top, in the same handwriting, were 3 words, Leo's trust account. Below, it was a long account number. A chill, sudden and violent, raced up my spine. This cold had nothing to do with the cabin. This was the icy touch of fear. It felt wrong. Secret. I looked out the window. Leo was still engrossed in his mud dam, oblivious. My hands were shaking. Quickly, I slipped the letter, the key, and the slip of paper into the back pocket of my jeans. I shoved the empty tin box back into the drawer and slammed it shut. That night, after I'd tucked Leo into the musty-smelling guest bed, my phone rang. It was Marcus, his voice cheerful and distant over the spotty connection. "Hey, how's the rustic life Leo surviving without Wi-Fi?" "We're fine," I said, my voice sounding strangely flat to my own ears. I was sitting at the dark kitchen table, my hand resting on my pocket, feeling the sharp rectangle of the folded envelope. "It's quiet. We'll probably head back in a day or two." "Good, good. I miss you guys. The office is chaos, but I think we're about to land this thing. It's going to be huge. Ilara. Huge." I listened to him talk about money, about projections, about his success, and for the first time, I said nothing about the cabin. I didn't mention the desk, or the tin box, or the letter from his dead father that was currently burning a hole in my pocket. "I miss you too," I lied. "Leo's asleep. I should go. I love you." "Love you more," he said, and hung up. I sat in the dark for a long time, the silence of the cabin roaring in my ears, the lie heavy on my tongue. The silence of the cabin was absolute. The only sound was the faint, rhythmic breathing of my son from the other room. I waited until I was sure he was deeply asleep before I moved. I sat at the kitchen table, the flashlight from my phone casting a small, harsh circle of light on the dark wood. I unfolded the letter. The paper was thin, and the ink had feathered slightly. "For Ilara only." My hands trembled. I took a deep breath and began to read. "My dear Ilara," it started. "If you are reading this, then I am gone, and I am sorry. I am sorry for many things. Mostly, I am sorry for being weak. I always saw your strength, and I admired it. I wish I had possessed more of it myself." The words felt like Arthur, his quiet, sad cadence present in the loops of his handwriting. "I have loved you as a daughter. I have watched you build a life, a career, all while being a wonderful mother to Leo. It is because of Leo that I am writing this. Years ago, I set up a trust account for him. It was my inheritance, and I wanted it to be his, to keep him safe, to give him a start that I never had." The letter continued, the handwriting growing slightly more unsteady, as if the words were difficult to write. "I have to ask you to keep this a secret, especially from Marcus." My heart, which had been pounding, seemed to stop. "I love my son, Ilara, but I don't trust him. He has a hole in him that money can't fill. I have tried to fill it my whole life. It was never enough. Do not let him know about this account until Leo is 18. Please, protect him. Protect yourself." The flashlight beam wavered as my hand shook. "A hole in him that money can't fill." The words hung in the cold air, an indictment I had never allowed myself to form. Protect yourself. It was not a suggestion. It was a plea. The letter was short, only 1 page. It ended with vague, chilling references. He wrote of past mistakes Marcus had made as a young man, situations that Arthur had been forced to clean up. He said he had hoped Marcus had changed, that my love and Leo's birth had settled him, but the last line was bleak. "I see now that the hunger is still there. Be careful." I turned off the flashlight and sat in the total darkness, the letter clutched in my fist. I was freezing, but a different kind of cold was spreading through my veins, a deep, internal ice. This wasn't a gift. It was a warning, a dead man's desperate attempt to contain the damage his own son might cause. Sleep was impossible. My mind which I'd forced into a numb state of grief for months, was suddenly, painfully sharp. It was like a lens snapping into focus. Every vague uneasiness, every dismissed worry from the past 10 years of my marriage flooded back. Marcus, laughing, when I asked why our joint savings account seemed low. It's in investments, Ilara, complex stuff. Don't worry your pretty head about it, that's what I'm for. Marcus, irritated, when I suggested we meet with his new partners. They're just backers, honey. Numbers guys. You'd be bored to tears. Let's just go to dinner. Just us. Marcus, his secretive phone calls, the way he would suddenly quiet his voice when I entered his home office, the long hours that had become long weeks, his constant talk of money, of deals, of killing it, while our actual, tangible savings felt stagnant. I was a partner at my own firm. I understood numbers, but he had always treated my questions as an adorable, naive intrusion into his complex world of high finance. I had let him. I had been busy with Leo, with my own demanding career restoring historic buildings. I was tired. It was easier to believe him, to believe in the man I had married, the charming, ambitious man who told me he was building an empire for us. Arthur had seen it. Arthur, who sat quietly at family dinners, watching. He had seen the whole, and he had tried to build a firewall with me as the unknowing guardian. By the time the first gray light filtered through the dusty windows, I was no longer a grieving widow. I was a target, and I was a mother. I made coffee, my hands steady. When Leo woke up, I made him pancakes, my smile feeling stiff and foreign on my face. Protect him. The words were a brand. My phone rang at 9. Marcus. Morning, I answered, my voice deliberately weary. Listen, honey, I'm glad I came out here. This place needs work, more than I thought. What kind of work? His voice was instantly sharp, businesslike. Is it cosmetic? No, I said, looking at a perfectly solid wooden beam. It's structural. I'm seeing some significant rot in the main support joists under the porch, and the foundation looks like it has some frost heave I didn't notice before. It's not safe. This was my first lie. It came surprisingly easily. Damn it, that's all we need. He sighed. So, you'll come home today? I don't think I should. I want to get a local contractor out here to give me an estimate. I'll need to be here to show them the issues. I paused. Leo and I will probably stay another 2, maybe 3 days, just to get this sorted. It was Arthur's. I want to make sure we honor it. There was a moment of silence. Right, of course, you're the expert. His voice softened. Okay, good call. Keep me posted. Love you. Love you, too, I said, and ended the call. I packed a small bag for Leo and me. I told him we were going on an adventure to the little town nearby to get supplies. I bundled him into the car, my purse heavy on my shoulder. The key and the folded piece of paper were in a zipped inner pocket. The town was a 20-minute drive down the mountain. It was a single main street with a post office, a diner, and a small brick-faced building with a wooden sign, Cascade Foothills Bank. My heart was a cold, hard knot in my chest. I parked the car, gave Leo my phone to play a game, and told him I would be right back. Just have to check on something for Grandpa. Honey, I said. I walked up the stone steps and pushed open the heavy glass door. The bell on the door of the Cascade Foothills Bank chimed softly. The air inside was warm and still, smelling of old paper and the faint, sweet scent of coffee from a pot on a side table. A single teller, a young man, looked up, behind a glass partition, in an office labeled Branch Manager, sat an older woman with neatly coiffed silver hair. I walked to the counter, my pulse loud in my ears. Excuse me, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I need to ask about a safe deposit box. My father-in-law, Arthur Vane. He left me this. I pushed the small, bronze-colored key across the counter. The teller looked at the key, then at me. He picked it up and walked the few steps to the manager's office, rapping gently on the glass. The woman looked up, and he showed her the key. Her expression, previously one of polite neutrality, softened instantly. She saw me standing at the counter, and she stood up, emerging from her office with a kind, sad smile. "I'm Margaret Albright," she said, her voice warm. She extended a dry, soft hand. "You must be Alara. Arthur spoke of you and your son, Leo, often. I was so terribly sorry to hear of his passing. He was a good man, our banker for, goodness, nearly 30 years. Thank you," I managed. He left me this key, and a note about a trust account for Leo." "Ah, yes, the trust." Her smile became reassuring. "He was so meticulous about that. Come with me, dear." She led me past her desk to the back of the small lobby, toward a heavy, circular vault door that looked like it belonged in a different century. As she retrieved her own key from a drawer, she explained, "Arthur set that trust up the week Leo was born. He was very, very specific about the structure." She paused, looking at me pointedly. "He was the sole owner. You, Alara, were listed as the sole contingent beneficiary to act on Leo's behalf. He was extremely clear that his son, Marcus, was to have no access. None." A gust of relief, so powerful it almost made me lightheaded, swept through me. I leaned against the wall for a second. He was just being paranoid. Arthur, bless him, had just been an overly cautious old man. The letter was a product of his illness, his worry. Marcus couldn't have touched it. He had no access. "I understand," I said, my voice returning to its normal strength. "Thank you for telling me. That's a relief." "Of course," she said. "Now, let's see what he left for you." She inserted her key, and then I inserted mine. There was a solid mechanical thunk, and Mrs. Albright pulled open a long, narrow metal box. She slid it onto a small, waist-high counter in a private alcove. I held my breath, not knowing what to expect. Gold piles of cash. I lifted the lid. The box was nearly empty. My heart sank. A cold knot formed in my stomach, replacing the warmth of my recent relief. All that was inside was a neat, thin folder. I opened it. There were a few old paper savings bonds, the kind my parents used to buy, maturing in the late 90s. Tucked behind them was an official, embossed copy of Leo's birth certificate. That was all. No bank books. No stacks of $100 bills. No property deeds. I don't understand," I said, the words catching in my throat. "The letter," he said. "I thought the trust. Was it just these bonds?" Mrs. Albright looked confused. "Oh, goodness, no, dear. The trust is a separate account. This box was just for his important papers." She patted my arm. "Let's go back to my desk. I'll pull up the account for you. Arthur always kept a very healthy balance in it. He was very proud of that." I followed her back to her office, the cold knot in my stomach tightening. I stood beside her desk as she logged into her computer, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the keyboard. "Let's see. Vane, Arthur. Trust for Leo," she murmured. An account summary page loaded onto her screen. She stared at it. Her polite smile faded, replaced by a deep frown. "Well," she said, her voice suddenly flat. That's very strange." "What?" I demanded, leaning over the desk. "What is it?" "The account," she said, clicking her mouse. It was liquidated 6 months ago, the entire balance. The blood drained from my face. Liquidated. What do you mean, where did it go?" "It was transferred," she said, her professional calm clearly fractured. "A wire transfer, to an offshore investment account. The entire sum. A very large sum. Who did it?" My voice was rising, echoing in the quiet bank. You said I was the only one you said, Arthur? He was, she insisted, tapping furiously. A transfer of that size would require his signature. It would have to be a formal request. Ah, here it is. She clicked on a link, and a scanned PDF document filled the screen. See, it's all in order. A legal wire transfer request. It was signed by the account holder, Mr. Arthur? She turned the monitor so I could see it clearly. I saw Arthur's signature, weaker than I'd ever seen it, shaky and thin, and right next to it, on the line labeled Beneficiary Authorization, was another signature, my own, Alara Vane. I stared at it. It was perfect. It was my signature. The confident loop of the E, the sharp tick on the R, the way my A always slanted slightly to the right. It was flawless, and I had never ever seen that document before in my life. See, Mrs. Albright said, her voice regaining some of its assurance. It was signed by both of you. You must have authorized this transfer together, perhaps to consolidate his assets. It's dated. Let's see. 6 months ago, just when he'd gone into the hospital. I couldn't breathe. 6 months ago, when Arthur was floating on a sea of morphine, when Marcus had taken over all the finances, his face a mask of loving concern, when he'd told me, "Don't worry about the bills. Alara, I'm handling everything. I'm moving some of Dad's assets around to cover the care. It's complex." I stared at the name. My name. A perfect forgery. My husband hadn't just ignored his father's wishes. He had used me to defy them. He had used my identity to steal my son's future. Arthur wasn't paranoid. He was a prophet, and my nightmare was only just beginning. I don't remember the drive back to the cabin. My mind was a white static buzz, flashing that digital image of my own signature over and over, Alara Vane, a perfect, effortless forgery. He hadn't just stolen the money, he had made me the accomplice. I found Leo in the main room, showing me a drawing of the cabin with a crooked chimney. I looked at him, at his trusting, open face, and the static in my head focused into a single, sharp point of rage. Protect him. Arthur's words. I grabbed my phone and went outside, walking past the damp porch into the thin, cold rain. My fingers were shaking so hard I could barely unlock the screen. I scrolled to N and hit send. Naomi, my best friend since our freshman year at architecture school, the godmother of my son, and, by the grace of God, one of the most ruthless litigators in Portland. She answered on the second ring, her voice all business. Alara, you sound terrible. What's wrong? The words fell out of me. The cabin, the will, the jammed drawer, the letter from Arthur, the bank, the empty box, the trust account, the wire transfer, the forgery. Naomi didn't gasp. She didn't curse. She just listened, a trait that made her terrifying in a courtroom. When I finally stopped, choked with a dry sob, there was a full 5 seconds of pure, cold silence. "Okay," she said finally, her voice flat and hard. "Listen to me, Alara. You are going to do exactly what I say. First, you are not to confront him. Do you understand me? Not one word." "But Naomi, he stole from Leo." "I don't care," she snapped. "He's a cornered animal, and you don't know how dangerous he is. He will lie. He will gaslight you. He will destroy the evidence, and, worse, he will make you sound insane. And you are in an isolated cabin, alone with your child. You are in a tactically weak position. You will not engage." "So what do?" I whispered, wiping the rain from my face. "You pack your bag, you get Leo, you get in the car, and you drive home to Seattle. Right now. Go home to him. Yes, because it's the last thing he would expect. You are going to call him, and you are going to tell him you miss him. You are going to tell him the cabin is too sad, too full of Arthur, and that you need your husband. I can't. You will, she said, her voice softening just a fraction. You are the grieving, heartbroken wife. You need his comfort. You need family. You, Alara, are going to give the performance of your life. You will go home. You will smile. You will let him hold you. And you will become a ghost in your own house. You will watch him. You will listen. You will gather every piece of evidence you can. What you have right now is a warning. You need the weapon. I hung up, my hand no longer shaking. Purpose is a powerful anesthetic. I went inside and told Leo to pack his bag, that we were going to go home and surprise Daddy. The drive back was a blur of highway hypnosis. Leo slept in the back seat, oblivious. Every mile closer to our house felt like a mile deeper into enemy territory. About 30 minutes out, I pulled onto the shoulder and called him. My heart hammered against my ribs. A trapped bird. Hey, I said, forcing a small, broken quiver into my voice. Honey. Alara. Is everything okay? Is it the cabin? The foundation? His voice was sharp, alert. No, the cabin's fine, I whispered. It's me. I hate it here. It's too quiet. It's too much. He's everywhere. I just want to come home. I need you. I need our family. There was a beat of silence. I could almost hear the calculations clicking in his head. Then, his voice flooded with warmth. Poisonous, perfect warmth. Oh, honey, of course. Come home. I'll leave the office right now. I'll pick up dinner. Don't worry about a thing. Just come home to me. I miss you. I miss you too, I said. The lie tasted like copper. When I pulled into the driveway of our beautiful, restored Craftsman, my dream home, my project, it looked like a stranger's house, a stage set. He was there, just as he'd promised, walking out the front door as I unbuckled Leo. He pulled me into a hug, burying his face in my hair. I went limp, a dead weight in his arms. God, I missed you, he murmured against my temple. It took everything in me not to recoil. His touch felt like spiders. I missed you, I whispered back, my face pressed into the shoulder of his expensive suit. That night was the performance. He poured me a glass of wine. I drank it, my throat burning. He asked about the cabin, and I lied about the structural issues, about needing to get a contractor. I watched his face, searching for a flicker, a tell. There was nothing, just concern, just the loving husband, worried about his wife and his father's legacy. He was brilliant. I had to be better. We went to bed. I turned away from him, facing the wall, my entire body rigid. Tired, he asked, his hand landing on my waist. I managed a convincing flinch, followed by a shaky breath. Just exhausted, being there. It was harder than I thought. He considerately removed his hand. Okay, get some sleep. Honey, we're home. Everything's fine. I lay there, my eyes burning in the darkness, forcing my breathing into the deep, slow rhythm of sleep. In, out, in, out. He fell asleep within 20 minutes, his breathing heavy and regular beside me. I did not sleep. I waited, listening to the sounds of the house. I lay there for 2 hours, a statue of a sleeping woman, my heart a cold stone in my chest. At 2:15 in the morning, he moved. It was subtle, the shift of his weight on the mattress. A pause. Then, the almost soundless lift of the blankets. He slid out of bed. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I heard his bare feet on the hardwood floor, the faint click of the bedroom door opening, and the softer snick as he pulled it almost closed. I counted to 100, slowly. Then, I slipped out of bed. The floor was cold under my feet. I moved through the darkness of the upstairs hall, a shadow in my own home. A thin, pale line of light glowed from under his study door. I crept down the hallway, pressing myself flat against the wall. I strained to listen. I heard his voice, a low, smooth murmur. Not the voice he used with me, not the voice he used with Leo. This was his business voice, confident, private, conspiratorial. My first thought, absurdly, was an affair. It would have been so much simpler, but he wasn't talking to a woman. "The transfer is processing," he said, his voice a low hum. "It should be fully cleared by Monday." A pause. He laughed, a quiet, dry, ugly sound. "No, don't worry about her. She suspects nothing. She was up at the cabin, an emotional wreck. She just got back tonight, ran right home to me." Another pause. "She's completely clueless. If anything, the old man's death was a lucky break. It gave us the perfect cover for moving everything. She's too busy grieving to look at a bank statement. He wasn't just a thief. He was a ghoul, using his father's death as a lucky break." My grief, the grief he was comforting me for, was his alibi. I stood in the cold, dark hallway, and the last shred of the woman I had been the trusting wife. The partner died. In her place was something new, something cold and hard and patient. I became a ghost. The next morning, I kissed Marcus goodbye as he left for the office. The touch of my lips on his cheek felt like a betrayal, though I wasn't sure who I was betraying anymore. "Have a good day," I murmured. "Don't work too hard." He smiled, the confident, loving smile that I now saw as a mask. The second his car was out of the driveway, I was at our home computer. Naomi had sent me a link the night before, a keylogger. "It's untraceable." Her email said, "Installs in 30 seconds. It will copy every keystroke, every password, every login. He won't see it, but we will. I am an architect. My entire career is built on understanding structure. I don't just see a building, I see its bones, its systems, its load-bearing walls, and its hidden, vulnerable foundations. Marcus thought his digital life was a fortress, but he used our home network for convenience, and he used the same lazy, arrogant passwords for everything. He had built his fortress on a swamp. That was his first mistake. Installing the software was easy. The second part was harder. I needed the blueprints, not just his passwords, but the entire history of his work. I needed the hard drive from his office at Apex Strategic. I waited 2 days. I played the part of Alara, the recovering wife, the focused mother. I made pancakes for Leo. I discussed contractors for the cabin with Marcus, watching him nod with faux concern. On Wednesday, I told him I needed to go into my own office, Viridian Restoration. "I just need to check on the team," I said. "Get my mind off things. Feel normal for an hour." He thought it was a wonderful idea. "That's my girl," he said, patting my arm. "Atta girl. Don't let this keep you down." I drove downtown. I went to my office, said hello to my partners, and then I walked out the back entrance. His high-rise was 3 blocks away. I still had a key fob. He had never thought to revoke my access. Why would he? I was his loving, clueless wife. The Apex Strategic office was sleek, minimalist, and almost completely empty. A single receptionist sat at the front. I smiled at her. "Just grabbing something from Marcus's office," I said. She nodded, not looking up from her phone. My heart was a cold, steady beat. I walked into his corner office. It was immaculate. I pulled the external drive from my purse, the one I used for massive architectural rendering files. His laptop was on its docking station, locked, but the keylogger had already done its work. The night before, I had watched him log into his home system. The password it captured Alara Leo 1, the sickening, arrogant audacity of it. Using our names as the key to his betrayal, I typed in the password. The desktop flared to life. I plugged in the drive. I am used to dealing with massive files. I knew how to initiate a full disk image copy, a perfect mirror of his entire digital life. The process began. The progress bar told me it would take 45 minutes. It was the longest 45 minutes of my life. Every footstep in the hallway, every distant phone ring, felt like an accusation. I stood by the window, looking out over Seattle, my hands clasped so tightly my nails dug into my palms. The progress bar hit 100%. I safely ejected the drive, slipped it into my purse, wiped the recent USB connection from the system log, and logged the computer out. I walked past the receptionist with another easy smile. That night, I waited until 2 in the morning, until his breathing was deep and rhythmic beside me. I slipped out of bed and went to the guest room. I plugged the drive into my personal laptop, the one computer in the house he never touched, and I began to excavate. I started with Apex Strategic. Naomi had told me to look for client lists, balance sheets, and invoices. It took me less than an hour to see the truth. Apex Strategic was a shell. It had almost no clients. It had no assets. It had no discernible business, except for one. The firm's single largest and most consistent client was Viridian Restoration, my company. My breath hitched. I clicked open the file directories, my movements precise. For years, Marcus had managed my business finances. "You're the artist, honey," he'd always said. "You focus on the design. Let me handle the boring numbers. Let me protect your assets." He hadn't been protecting them. He had been plundering them. I pulled up my own firm's accounting software on my laptop's other screen and began to cross-reference. There it was, a network of lies. Payments from Viridian to companies I had never heard of. Cascade Geotechnical Surveys, Pacific Timber Imports, Historic Materials Consulting. I ran the names of those companies through the Apex files. They were all shell corporations, registered by Marcus, with payments directed to Apex Strategic. He had created an army of ghost contractors. He was issuing fake invoices from his fake companies to my real one, and then he was using his signatory power on my accounts to pay himself. He was laundering my money, my company's money, through his own system. He hadn't just stolen Leo's inheritance. He had been systematically gutting my entire life's work, my reputation, my career, all while telling me how proud he was of my success. He was a parasite, feeding on the life I had built. The numbers were staggering. Millions. Over the last 5 years. Millions. I felt hollow. Sick. Where was it all going? The theft was too vast, even for his love of expensive suits and luxury cars. I followed the money out. The outbound transfers from Apex Strategic. It was a dizzying web of offshore accounts, designed to be confusing. But as I dug deeper, I saw a pattern. One account, not offshore, but domestic. A simple, recurring wire transfer. $10,000, every single month, on the 1st. The recipient wasn't a corporation. It was an individual. C. Vane. Vane. His last name. I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Arthur was gone. Marcus had always told me he was an only child. I had no idea who C. Vane was. C. Vane. The name echoed in my head. A dissonance. $10,000 every single month. It felt too methodical for blackmail, too personal. I called Naomi the next morning, my voice low as I paced my own backyard. Leo just inside the kitchen window playing with his blocks. "See, Vane," Naomi repeated, her voice crisp over the line. "It's almost certainly the accomplice. The question is, who are they, Mistress Blackmailer?" "I don't think it's a mistress," I said, watching my son. "The payments are too regular, too businesslike. It feels structural, like a necessary expense. I'll run the name through every database I have." Naomi said, "In the meantime, you need to go deeper. You copied the whole drive. Alara. That means you copied the digital shadows, the files he thought he deleted. You restore buildings. You find the history under the floorboards. Do the same thing here. Restore his trash." She was right. My entire career was based on digital archaeology. I use laser scanners and spectral analysis software to peel back the layers of a building to find the original 19th century framework hidden under a 1970s renovation. Recovering data wasn't that different. It was just excavating a different kind of ruin. That night, I waited again. The routine was becoming a dark ritual. Marcus, sleeping the deep, untroubled sleep of a sociopath. Me, slipping into the guest room, the blue light of the laptop painting my face. I ran a deep file recovery program on the mirrored drive. It was noise. Thousands of fragments, corrupted temp files, digital dust. But after 2 hours, a few deleted directories began to repopulate. Old chat logs, web history, and a folder he had clearly deleted years ago. Personal old. Inside, most of the files were unreadable, but one image file, a JPG, flickered and then resolved. It was a scanned photograph, faded and grainy, stamped with the date 1999 in the corner. Marcus. He looked barely 22, his face thinner, sharper, but with the same arrogant smile. He had his arm slung around a young woman. She was painfully thin, with lank, dark hair, but her eyes were identical to his. That same restless, hungry intensity. They were standing in front of a neon sign for a dive bar. I zoomed in, enhancing the image. My software, usually reserved for analyzing architectural details, clarified the pixels. It was a digital scan of a physical photo. I clicked to the next file in the recovered sequence. It was the back of the photo, written in blue ballpoint pen, Marcus and Chloe, 1999. Chloe, C. Vane. My blood turned to ice. I sent the file to Naomi immediately. My message simple, "This is her." The call came back in less than 5 minutes. Naomi's voice was no longer just professional, it was cold with anger. "I found her, Ilara." "Who is she?" I whispered, my hand over my mouth. "His mistress." "No," Naomi said, and the word was a hammer blow. I ran Chloe Vane. Then I cross-referenced it with Arthur's public records. Birth certificates. Ilara. Chloe Vane is his half-sister. I had to sit down. The floor of the guest room was cold. "That's impossible. Naomi, he told me he was an only child. I asked him, years ago, about his family. He told me he had a half-sister who died. An overdose. He said it was a tragedy." "He lied," Naomi said, her voice tight. "She's 42 years old, lives in Spokane, has a few minor priors for shoplifting and possession from over a decade ago, but she's been clean, working as a waitress in a diner for the last 8 years. The exact amount of time he's been sending her $10,000 a month." The lie was so profound, so complete, it nearly knocked the breath out of me. He hadn't just lied about money. He had lied about life and death. He had erased a living, breathing person from his history. But why? My mind was spinning. Why pay her? Is it blackmail? Did she know about the theft? "The answer has to be in the drive," Naomi urged. "You found the who. Now you find the why. Look for emails. Look for anything that connects them." I went back to the drive, my fingers flying. I searched the recovered data for Chloe. It wasn't in his professional emails. But I found a deleted archive from an old, anonymous webmail account, a conversation thread stretching back years. I opened it, and the full, hideous scope of his manipulation unfolded. He had contacted her 8 years ago, re-establishing a connection she must have thought was long dead, and he had fed her a story. I read his words, his tone a perfect mimicry of a concerned, trapped brother. He told Chloe that I, Ilara, was the villain. "She's not stable, Chloe," he had written. "She's financially abusive. She has this company, and she's spending us into the ground. She's controlling. I'm worried she's going to lose everything. Dad's money, Leo's future, everything." I read as he described my erratic behavior, my obsession with work, painting me as a mentally unstable, reckless woman who was destroying the family. He wasn't paying her for her silence. He was paying her to be his partner. He had told her that the money he was funneling from my company, the money he was stealing from Arthur's trust, wasn't theft. It was a rescue mission. He was moving their family money into accounts where I couldn't waste it. The $10,000 a month wasn't blackmail. It was her rightful inheritance, which he, the heroic brother, was saving from his unstable wife. He had found his long-lost, vulnerable sister, and instead of helping her, he had poisoned her against me. He had weaponized her. He had turned her into his accomplice by making me the enemy. I looked at the screen, at the words he had written about me: financially abusive, unstable, controlling. He hadn't just stolen my money and my son's future. He had stolen my name, my reputation, my very identity, and handed it to a stranger as a reason to help him destroy me. My husband had built his fortress on a simple, ancient principle: divide and conquer. He had 2 women in his life, his wife and his sister, and he had kept us separated by a 4-hour drive and a wall of poison. He had told me she was dead. He had told her I was insane. As long as we never spoke, his structure was sound. I was going to demolish it. Attacking Marcus directly was not the answer. He was a liar, insulated by his own arrogance and my forged signature. He would deny everything, paint me as the unstable, grieving wife Arthur's letter had warned me about. He would expect an emotional confrontation. He would be prepared for it. He would never be prepared for me to visit Chloe. I told Marcus I was driving to Spokane to meet a specialist supplier. They have some reclaimed 19th century Douglas fir I need to see in person for the Bellevue project, I said over breakfast. My lie was detailed, professional, and boring. It was perfect. Great, honey. You're a pro. Just be safe on the pass, he said, kissing my forehead before he left, his briefcase in hand. The 4-hour drive was a cold rehearsal. I drove through the damp green of the Cascades and into the dry, high plains of eastern Washington, the tablet containing the mirrored hard drive heavy in my bag. I wasn't an angry wife. I was an architect presenting a structural analysis. Naomi's research had been thorough. The diner was a small, squat building off a main road, its sign buzzing weakly in the afternoon light. It smelled of stale coffee and fried onions. I saw her through the window. She had his eyes, just as I'd seen in the photograph. But in person, they were tired, worn down by a life I couldn't imagine. She looked nothing like a criminal mastermind. She looked like a woman who had been waiting for the next bad thing to happen her whole life. I slid into a vinyl-covered booth. She came over, wiping her hands on her apron. "Coffee?" she asked, her voice raspy. "My name is Alara Vane," I said, my voice low and steady. "I'm Marcus's wife. And I need to talk to you, because he has been lying to both of us." Her face went blank. It was a mask I recognized, the kind people put on when they expect to be hurt. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, starting to turn away. "I know about the $10,000 a month," I said. She froze. "I know he told you I'm unstable. I know he told you I'm financially abusive. And I know he told you he's rescuing your family money." She gripped the coffee pot so hard her knuckles went white. "He's my brother. He's protecting what's ours." "Is he?" I slid my tablet onto the table, out of sight of the other few patrons. "This is a letter. From his father. Arthur. He left it for me. Chloe. Not his son. Read it." I had scanned the letter from the cabin. She bent down, her eyes flying across Arthur's shaky script. I saw her face tighten at the words. "I love my son, but I don't trust him. He has a hole in him that money can't fill." "He was old," she whispered, pushing the tablet back. "He was sick." "He was right," I said. I swiped to the next file. "Marcus told you I was wasting money, that I was destroying the family. This is my company, Viridian Restoration. I built it from nothing. And these," I swiped again, showing her the ledger, the list of his shell corporations, "are the fake invoices he's been using to bleed my company dry. He's not saving anything. He's stealing. He's stolen millions of dollars. From me. And from my son." Her tough exterior was cracking. She was staring at the numbers, at the fake company names. He said that was our money, that I was the villain. I know. I took a breath. It was time for the final move. The Queen's Gambit. He didn't just steal from me, Chloe, and he didn't just steal from Leo. He stole from you, too. He's not your partner. He's your scapegoat. What are you talking about? I pulled up the last file. The one I had found buried in a subfolder labeled Estate Planning. It was a life insurance policy, executed 3 weeks ago. He bought this for me recently, I said. A $2 million policy. He's very thorough. So, she scoffed. He's my brother. He's taking care of his family. Look at the beneficiary, I said quietly. The beneficiary wasn't Marcus. It wasn't Leo. It was a corporation, Pacific Timber Imports. Chloe's eyes went wide. That's the company he set up for me, for my inheritance. He said it was to protect me. It's the shell company he's been using to launder my money, I corrected her, my voice cold as ice. It's also the company that receives $2 million if I die. Think about that, Chloe. A woman he told you is mentally unstable and financially reckless. A woman who, if she had a tragic accident, would solve all his problems, and the money, it doesn't go to him. It goes directly to a company in your name. A company he has been sending stolen money to for years. I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a whisper. He's not just scamming us, Chloe. He's setting you up. If something happens to me, you're the prime suspect. The police will find a motive in a second the crazy wife is dead, and the long-lost sister gets all the money. He's not building you a future. He's building himself an alibi. I let the last terrible thought hang in the air. Or maybe, once the money is safely in your company, you're next. The color drained from her face. Every bit of bravado, every trace of the lie she had clung to, vanished. She saw the truth. She wasn't his sister, his partner. She was his disposal plan. She sank into the booth opposite me, her hands shaking. That monster, she whispered. That bastard. Yes, I said. He is. But he made one mistake. He let us meet. Her eyes, his eyes, met mine. The loyalty was shattered. All that was left was a mirror image of my own rage. What do you want me to do? She asked. The drive back from Spokane was a 4-hour strategy session. I was no longer a ghost. I was a general. Naomi, Chloe, and I were connected on a 3-way conference call. Our voices a low, steady hum of conspiracy. Chloe was understandably terrified, her raspy voice shaking. He'll know I'm lying, Ilara. He'll hear it in my voice. He won't. Naomi cut in, her voice sharp and certain. He already thinks you're a weak, hysterical charity case. He expects you to be panicked. You aren't going to call him with a plan. You're going to call him because you just received a certified letter from the IRS. It's an audit notice. You don't understand the words. You just see Pacific Timber Imports and federal investigation, and you are calling your big brother to save you. My role was simpler and far more difficult. I just had to be there. I had to be the loving, clueless, supportive wife while the trap snapped shut. The performance was set for Thursday night. Leo was asleep. I was curled on the sofa, a design magazine open on my lap, my peripheral vision locked on Marcus. He was across the room, at his desk, his laptop open. My own laptop, hidden in the kitchen, was mirroring his every keystroke, his every mouse click. At 8:30, his personal phone rang. He glanced at the screen. See? Vain. His jaw tightened. He shot a quick look at me, a flash of pure annoyance. I pretended to be engrossed in an article on minimalist staircases. He answered, his voice a perfect, smooth baritone. Chloe, this isn't a good time. I heard her, a tinny, high-pitched wail from the phone's earpiece. She didn't even say hello. Marcus. Oh my God, Marcus. They know they sent a letter. It's from the IRS, Chloe's terror, I realized, was genuine. She wasn't acting. She was truly terrified of him, and it was translating perfectly. It says audit. It says discrepancies. They're asking for all the records for Pacific Timber Marcus. What's happening? They're going to put me in jail. I watched his face. The mask of calm didn't just slip, it evaporated. His skin went a waxy, pale color. This was not the reaction of a man worried about his sister. This was the reaction of an animal that just heard a twig snap in the darkness. "Shut up," he hissed, his voice a venomous whisper. "Just shut up." He stood, forcing a strained smile for my benefit. "Honey," he said, his voice tight. "I am so sorry. I have to take this. It's an urgent client matter." I looked up, letting my magazine fall. I widened my eyes with wifely concern. "Oh no, is everything okay? You look pale." "It's fine. It's just incompetence. I have to deal with it." He stalked into his home study and shut the door firmly. He was a fool. He thought the closed door was a shield. He didn't know that his study was a stage, and I was watching from the wings. I picked up my tablet from the kitchen counter and tapped the secure link Naomi had sent me. His desktop flared to life on my screen, the keylogger and microphone feed streaming in real time. I watched him pace his office, his hand gripping his hair. "You idiot!" he spat into the phone. "You were supposed to be a ghost, a bank account. What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," Chloe sobbed. "It just came certified mail." "What do I do, Marcus? They're going to come for me." "They're not coming for you," he muttered, and I saw the realization dawn on his face. An audit of Chloe's shell company was a lit fuse. It would lead directly to Apex Strategic, and from Apex, it would lead directly to the millions he had stolen from Viridian, from my company, from Arthur. It would all lead to him. He hung up on her without a goodbye. His hands flew across the keyboard. I watched his screen as he logged into his offshore portals, one in the Caymans, one in Switzerland, one in Belize. He was panicking. He was pulling up balances, his mouse flying. He was trapped. The web he had so carefully built was now a cage. He needed to run. He needed to consolidate. I gave him 10 minutes to stew in his own terror. Then I went to the study. I knocked gently. "Marcus, honey." He wrenched the door open. He was sweating. "Ilara, I'm busy. Please." "I know. I'm worried about you." I reached out and put my hand on his arm. The muscle was rigid. "You're under so much pressure. That terrible merger, and now this client. You're stretched too thin. Is there anything I can do?" He stared at me. His eyes were frantic, calculating. He was looking at me, but he was seeing his alibi, his loving, worried, clueless wife, the woman who thought he was just stressed from work. It's a massive asset transfer." "Ilara," he said, his voice dropping, as if confiding in me. "We have to move everything, all at once, tonight, before the markets open in Asia. It's the only way to protect the client." "My God," I breathed. "Can you even do that from here?" And then, the moment came, the moment Naomi had hoped for. He looked at his own desk, his own computer, and a new, colder fear entered his eyes. Paranoia. What if this network was compromised? "Ilara," he said, his voice suddenly strange and almost casual. "I have a weird favor to ask. I've been getting security alerts on this home network. A brilliant, tactical lie. I can't risk making this transfer from here. It's too big. I need a clean, secure, commercial-grade line." He paused. Can I use your office?" My heart stopped. "Viridian," I asked, feigning confusion. "But it's nearly 10 o'clock. "Exactly," he said, his eyes gleaming. He was so smart. He was walking right into it. "No one will be there. It's a secure, high-speed corporate IP. It's the perfect cover. It will look like a routine corporate transaction. It will, it will anchor the transfer to a legitimate business. Anchor me to it, I thought. He wasn't just hiding. He was actively planning to frame me. If the transfer was ever flagged, it would have originated from my company, my IP address, my office. He was going to burn my company to the ground to cover his escape. Of course, honey, I said, my voice trembling with what he assumed was wifely devotion. Whatever you need. Let me get my master key. He grabbed my shoulders and kissed my forehead. You're a lifesaver. You have no idea. I'll be back in an hour. Don't wait up. The front door clicked shut. I stood in the silent hallway for 1, 2, 3 seconds. Then I grabbed my phone and dialed Naomi. He's on his way. He's going to Viridian. He's moving everything. Right now. There was a pause, and I heard Naomi take a deep, steadying breath. I'll make the call, she said. Her voice was pure steel. The team is in place. She had already done it, of course. She had taken Arthur's letter, my forged signature, and the entire contents of Marcus's mirrored hard drive, and she had built a beautiful, structurally sound case. She had handed it to the Financial Crimes Division of the FBI. They were just waiting for him to act. They were waiting for one massive, undeniable, in-progress transaction. Marcus thought he was running to a secure location. He didn't know he was walking onto a lit stage. He arrived late, well after 11, using the master key I had so helpfully provided. I was not at home. Leo was safe with a sitter Naomi had vetted, a woman who used to be a detective. I was already at Viridian. I was in the small annex office, watching the security camera feed on my tablet, surrounded by shadows and 3 federal agents who hadn't spoken a word in an hour. Marcus was energized. He strode into the dark office, a conqueror. He went straight to my personal workstation, the most powerful computer in the building. He didn't even bother with his own laptop. He flicked on my desk lamp, a small, arrogant pool of light. He sat in my chair. He booted up my machine. He looked for the password, and he found it, right where I'd left it a sticky note. Accidentally, tucked under the keyboard tray, with my admin login credentials. A rookie mistake. So stupid he couldn't help but believe it. The keylogger I had installed on my own machine pinged my tablet silently. He was in. We watched his screen, mirrored to ours. It was fascinating, in a sickening way. He was a virtuoso. He moved through encrypted portals and offshore accounts like a concert pianist. He was liquidating everything Arthur's stolen trust, my company's plundered accounts, and funneling it all into a single, untraceable master account in Belize. His fingers were a blur. He was whistling, a low, tuneless sound, confident he was just moments from freedom. He leaned forward, his face illuminated in the glow of the screen, waiting for the final authentication. The progress bar crept to 99%. He clicked the final confirm button. He leaned back in my chair. He stretched his arms over his head. A long, satisfying stretch of victory. That's when I hit the main lights. The overhead fluorescent panels snapped on with a jarring hum, flooding the expansive office in cold, sterile white. Marcus flinched, his hands flying up to shield his eyes. He spun around, his chair scraping loudly on the hardwood. I was standing in the main doorway. The woman he saw was not the wife he had kissed goodbye. The soft, grieving, pliable woman was gone. I was in a charcoal gray power suit, my hair pulled back so tightly it almost hurt. My expression was flat, cold, and utterly devoid of the emotion he had relied on for so long. He gaped, his mouth open, his mind visibly catching and failing. Alara, what? What are you doing here? How? I'm restoring honey, I said. My voice was calm, and it cut through the hum of the lights. It's my job. Remember, I find the structural weaknesses, and you are my final project. The blood drained from his face as comprehension dawned. Pure, animal panic. He lunged across the desk, Not for the power button, but for the mouse, trying to cancel the transfer, to sever the connection. I wouldn't, I said, my voice stopping him cold. It's too late. The transaction is already being monitored. It has been from the second you logged in. Every click, every password. They have everything. His hand trembled, hovering over the mouse. He snapped his head up, his eyes wild and hateful. He snarled. Who is they? Your little lawyer friend, you think she's going to stop me. She helped, I acknowledged. But no, not just her. The door to the main conference room opened silently. A man in a dark suit stepped out, then another. They moved with a quiet, efficient purpose. Marcus Vane, the lead agent said, his voice polite but absolute. Federal Bureau of Investigation. We need you to step away from the computer. Now. Marcus looked from the agents to me and back to the agents. His entire reality was visibly collapsing. You, he whispered, his voice choked with disbelief. You did this. Not alone, I said, as if summoned. The main office door swung open again. A figure emerged from the hallway. She looked exhausted and terrified, but she was standing. It was Chloe. She walked past the agents, her gaze locked on her brother, and came to a stop, standing right beside me. Marcus stared. At me, the wife he'd underestimated, at Chloe, the sister he'd betrayed, and at the federal agents who were already bagging his laptop. The structure was gone. The foundation had given way. The whole house had just come down. His gaze snapped from my face to Chloe's, and the mask of the civilized man disintegrated. The disbelief curdled into a raw, guttural rage. You! He shrieked, the sound tearing through the quiet office. He lunged, but the agent's grip on his arm was iron. He pointed a shaking finger at Chloe. You worthless! And you? His wild eyes found me. My wife, both of you. You set me up. He was a cornered animal, and he began to thrash, his voice echoing off the glass walls. She's insane. She's the one she's been unstable for months, ever since her father died. She's paranoid. She manufactured all of this. She framed me. He turned his venom on Chloe, his face purple. And her. Look at her. She's a broke, drug-addled nobody. Ilara paid her. She paid her to lie. This is a setup. It was a frantic, pathetic performance, but the agents were unmoved. They had seen it all before. One of them pulled Marcus's hands behind his back with a practiced, brutal efficiency. The sound of the handcuffs ratcheting shut, that dry, final click, 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 was the loudest sound I had ever heard. Marcus Vane, the lead agent said, his voice bored. You are under arrest for multiple counts of wire fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit fraud. They began to pull him toward the door. He stopped fighting, his body going limp, and then, a sound that chilled me more than the screaming, he began to laugh. It was a slow, deep, arrogant laugh. He stopped and turned, his face a mask of condescending pity. You think you've won, he sneered, looking right at me. You think you're smart, Ilara. You have nothing. He looked at the agents. You have nothing. The money is gone. It's already been transferred. It's vapor. It's in 1,000 pieces, in accounts that don't even exist anymore. You will never find it. And this. He gestured with his cuffed hands. This is just a misunderstanding, a wife's hysteria. You can't prove intent. You can't prove any of it. I'll be out of here in 72 hours, and I'll be on a beach before you even file the paperwork. The agents paused, holding him. I took one step toward him, then another, until I was close enough to see the sweat on his forehead, close enough for him to see my eyes. You're right about one thing. Marcus, I said, my voice so quiet that everyone in the room instinctively went silent. The letter from your father wasn't enough. The forged signature on Leo's account wasn't enough. Even catching you tonight, mid-transfer, it's complex. You're a brilliant liar. You could have argued your way out. You could have claimed you were protecting assets for me. You could have continued the unstable wife narrative." His smile widened. He was triumphant. "See, she admits it. But I found your mistake," I continued. "It was you. You're the structural flaw." I reached into the pocket of my suit jacket. My hand closed around a small, cold piece of metal. "After I spoke to Chloe, I knew I was missing something. Arthur's letter. It felt incomplete. So I drove back to the cabin. I pulled my hand out of my pocket and slowly opened my palm. There it was. The small, bronze-colored key from the rusty fishing lure box. Marcus just stared at it. "So what?" he scoffed. "The key to the empty box. What are you going to do? Show them Leo's birth certificate? You're pathetic." "You're so smart, Marcus," I said. "But you never paid attention to the details. You never really saw your father. You only ever saw what you could take from him. His letter wasn't just a warning. It was a map. That key was for the bank box. That was the first step. He needed me to see the empty box. He needed me to see the forgery of my own signature. He needed me to know, without a shadow of a doubt, exactly who you are." "But the slip of paper," I said, "the one that said Leo's trust account. It wasn't just an account number. It was a unit number, Unit 10A. At the Cascade Self-Storage Facility, on the edge of town. Your father knew you'd look for money. He'd find the bank. He never thought you'd be smart enough to look for the truth." I reached into my other pocket and pulled out a simple, silver utility key. This was hidden under the floorboards of his desk. I went back. I opened it. It wasn't full of money. Marcus, it was full of you. The color, the arrogance, all of it drained from his face. He knew. Your father was a meticulous man. He kept everything. "Everything," I whispered, as the agents, sensing the shift, began to pull him away again. "He kept the files from the first time you did this. The investment scam you pulled in college. The one he cleaned up. He kept the settlement agreements. He kept the police reports he managed to quash. But most importantly, Marcus." I let the final word land as he was pulled through the doorway, his face a mask of pure, silent horror. "He kept the handwritten confession you signed 15 years ago, begging for his help, the one he promised he would never, ever use, unless you hurt Leo. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I'm curious. Where are you tuning in from? Let me know in the comments below so we can connect and share our thoughts. Please subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories, like this video, and if you can, support us by hitting that hype button. It really helps get these stories heard by more people.